Hi. Much love to the folks who've lifted up Martin Luther King the last few weeks over the different things that I've been involved in. Martin Luther King was remarkable. So were many other people that were involved with him. But I think the relevance or the gravity that I hope people take with them today is if Martin Luther King was here, he'd be writing a letter from your jail. He'd be writing a letter, not from Birmingham jail, but a letter from Dane County jail, right? Because as Martin Luther King warned us, people are more concerned with what they perceive to be law and order versus what is actually just and what is actually right. And so it is a huge contradiction to say you love and value Martin Luther King and do everything against his values. It is clear where Martin Luther King would be at on this issue. He spoke very adamantly and very publicly and very vehemently about the ills and the monstrosity of the criminal justice system and its unfairness and its unjustness. So it is not unclear where he is on the issue, right? And so going on record, if you value Martin Luther King, then you have to think differently, right? And if you don't, then you cannot say you value Martin Luther King. You would have been the white liberal he condemned in his letter 50 years ago. He's talking about you. But I'm going to address a couple comments I've been hearing about this issue over the last months. Quickly, I'm going to address Sheriff Mahoney's comments in particular, who says people are in jail because they actually did something in. Three quick stories. Khalif Browder was a young black kid, New York. They said he stole a backpack. He didn't steal a backpack, but it didn't matter because he was poor and he was black. They locked him up. He spent time in solitary confinement. Did maybe a couple years. When he finally got out, they were like, oh, shit, you really didn't steal the book bag, Khalif. Mind you, he spent months in jail in solitary confinement, got out, and committed suicide because jail destroyed him. And even if he did actually steal a book bag, which he didn't, but even if he did actually steal a backpack, did that make sense for that kid, right? So it's clear to me in that situation that it wasn't about what he was accused of doing. It was actually more about being poor and black. But looking here locally, Mr. Love, Freedom Inc. has a community center on South Park Street. I was outside one day right in front of our community center. There was a black, poor, homeless man who had done nothing. He did not harm anyone. He did not take anything from anyone. In fact, nobody was even near him. He wasn't destroying anybody's property. What he was homeless. He used the bathroom on himself because there was no place for him to use the bathroom. The police showed up, arrested him, and he went into your jail, right? He went to jail not because he did anything. He went to jail because he was poor and black, because I've seen white drunk kids piss themselves on State Street all the time and they don't go to jail. You end up in jail. In fact, if I could build some sort of algorithm, I could build some sort of equation that could predict who would wind up in jail that's based on identity rather than it is on facts of the case. This is well documented, right? Who's in jail is about who they are and their identity, not about what happened, right? And then also thinking about the case of Sierra Finkley, right? This jail, right? See, she's a battered woman. She's calling repeatedly for help. The officers continue to fail her. The criminal justice system does not protect her. She saves herself, and she winds up in your jail, right? She's in jail. She went to jail, rather, because she was a poor black woman. Jail is about your identity. It is not about the facts of the case. There's so many things that white folks do. The amount of drugs, the amount of... I've seen white kids attack police officers on State Street, and they do not go to jail. So it is not... So people who are in jail has nothing to do with what they actually did or didn't do. It has to do with their race and their class identity. That's who goes to jail. And so I want to 1 minute.
1 more minute.
Thank you. I want to directly address Paul Rusk. He makes this. I think it tries to do an emotional appeal about the conditions of the actual jail. He talks about this woman who I'm sure is a true story, who was deeply traumatized by her experience, and I'm sure it was exacerbated while being incarcerated. And he makes his appeal that that's why we have to fix the jail, to stop the screams of the woman. I then challenge you specifically, Paul, to go to the jail and say to the people in there screaming, you know, I hear you screaming, and I have the control of $76 million. And I could actually get you mental health services. I could actually get you housing. I could invest in employment. I could invest in all of these things that'll probably take those screams away. But you know what? For you, I got a cage. I'm going to build you a shiny cage. I bet you'll hear a scream then that you never heard before. And I've heard several of those screams. I have 11 adult men in my family. 10 of them have been incarcerated for long periods of time. Half the women in my family have been incarcerated. I've had threats of incarceration, not because of shit I did, but because I was poor and because I was black. So that's what jail is about. In my last 10 seconds, directly to Carousel and Crosby, as Teddy said, as my comrade Teddy said, we are going to tell people the truth about you. So I will let poor black people who you tell that you are for restorative justice, let them know what you did with your $76 million. And the same to you, Crosby. When you sitting here trying to rep Ally, I'm going to let Ally know what you did with your $76 million. We're going to tell the truth about that.